Okay, it's November 22nd. I just received the software update for today. It is version, let's see what we have here, 2021 36.8.8, which is full self-driving 10.5. How exciting. Let's take a look at the release notes. I'll probably pull up a screen capture of these so you don't have to look at the glare on the screen, but one thing that's interesting is that the full self-driving beta feature toggle has been disabled. To use full self-driving beta, re-enable the feature toggle in controls autopilot and review the updated terms. So basically they updated the terms and they want us to re-accept those. They have added I guess what you might call full self-driving beta suspension. So for maximum safety and accountability, full self-driving beta will not operate if improper usage is detected. Improper usage is considered when you or another driver of your vehicle receive the 3 forced autopilot disengagements. This is when autopilot system disengages for the remainder of a trip after the driver has received several audio and visual warnings for inattentiveness. Keep your hands on the wheel and remain attentive at all times. Then the actual release notes for FSD 10.5. I think you've probably seen these online, but if not, I'll rattle through them real quick. Feel free to skip ahead if you'd like. So improved VRU, that's vulnerable road user, pedestrian, bicyclists, motorcycles, crossing velocity error by 20% from improved quality in our auto labeling. So improved VRU crossing velocity error. Not really sure what that means, but in any case, they're working on improving their tracking of pedestrians and so on and so forth. Improved static world predictions, so that means like road lines, edges, lane connectivity, by up to 13% by adding a new static world auto labeler and adding 165,000 auto-labeled videos. They improved cone and sign detections by uprevving the generalized static object network with 15K more video clips and adjusting oversampling and overweighting strategies. They improved by 4.5% precision and by 10.4% recall. That's cool. Improved cut-in detection network by 5.5% to help reduce false slowdown. So when a car moves in front of you, your car is not going to be overreacting quite as much. That's exciting. I've had a lot of the false slowdowns. Those are the primary things that you experience with FSD beta that really represent dangers, in my opinion. You can correct most of the other things, but it's very difficult to quickly correct a false slowdown if you've got somebody riding your tail. So enabled emergency collision avoidance maneuvering in shadow mode. So if you aren't aware, shadow mode is when full self-driving or autopilot or whatever you want to call it is running even if you're not using it. It's running in the background, kind of keeping notes about what it would have done versus what you did. And so they've enabled emergency collision avoidance maneuvering there. Interesting. I mean, if you're not in autopilot and you have an accident, this would tell them whether or not you might have avoided the accident if you were in autopilot, basically. Enabled behavior to lane change away from merges when safe to do so. So that's going to be super helpful. It's natural, like if you see cars merging in a lane, maybe you'd move out of the lane that they're merging into if it's possible. So that's a good feature to add. Improved merge object detection recall by using multimodal object prediction at intersections. Okay, what I think this means, I'm not sure, but I've definitely experienced issues where I'm going through my lane just fine, and because a vehicle is coming in as if it's about to merge, the vehicle has a false slowdown or kind of hits the brakes, which puts me at risk for a rear ending, right? So this is a good thing if that actually is what that means. Improved control for merges by increasing smoothness of arrival time constraints and considering possible merging objects beyond visibility. So we're going to improve the merging behavior is what I'm getting out of that. Improved lane changes by allowing larger deceleration limit in short deadline situations. So that's interesting. hopefully we'll have more human-like lane changes. So sometimes it waits too long, or sometimes it does stuff that would annoy other drivers. We'll have to check out lane merging lane changes in traffic to see if that's better. Improved lateral control for creeping forward to get more visibility. I'm really excited about this one. Had several experiences where it's creeping for visibility at a corner, but instead of doing it like a person would, which is to say it creeps out straight to maintain access to the same road that you're in for any other vehicles coming in, you kind of maintain your position but go straight out, and if you can turn, you hang a right or a left. What it has done for me in the past is take very kind of diagonal approaches where it creeps, but in creeping it blocks the lane for anybody who wants to enter the road that you're on. So hopefully it's a little bit more of an L-shaped creeping instead of a straight diagonal line creeping. That would be a real benefit. That was kind of, it was frustrating to other drivers. Improved modeling of road boundaries on high curvature roads for finer maneuvers. That's good. We all know that it has a little bit of trouble tracking what's going on when there's a lot of curvature to the road. Improved logic to stay on route and avoid unnecessary detours and routing. I've got one example where I know that it has to reroute 100% of the time on my trip to the gym, making the final turn into the gym for me. It's missed it 100% of the time, and I think it's because there's a bike lane there that it has to cross. So it'll be interesting to see if that improves that or not. I almost forgot. I wanted to show you that the full self-driving toggle has been turned off. So I assume I toggle that on. Should present me, yep, new terms and conditions. So full self-driving is an early limited access beta and must be used with additional caution. It may do the wrong thing at the worst time, so you must always keep your hands on the wheel and pay extra attention to the road. Do not become complacent. When FSD is enabled on your Model 3 will make lane changes off highways, select forks to follow on your navigation route, navigate around other vehicles and objects, and make left and right turns. The default driving profile may result in rolling stops in certain scenarios. Select Chill to completely disable rolling stops. Use FSD in limited beta only if you'll pay constant attention to the road and be prepared to act immediately, especially around blind corners, crossing intersections, and in narrow driving situations. Cabin camera is used to detect driver attentiveness while FSD beta is in use to provide you with audible alerts reminding you to keep your eyes on the road. Then we have a checkbox to accept. By enabling FSD beta, I consent to Tesla's collection of VIN-associated image data from the vehicle's external cameras and cabin camera. I think that's new. We'll verify. I think that's new. In the occurrence of serious safety risk or in the event of like a collision. Okay, fine. Do you want to enable FSD in this limited beta? I'll say yes. I'm going to stop and take a picture of that before I do. All right, we'll call that good for tonight. We'll pick up in the morning with a test drive. All right, we're going to take this out for a little test drive. See, the bike visualization there is nice. The first major test I want to take us to is an S-curve. I don't know if you can see that very well, but here, Greenwood Avenue turns into Finney via an S-curve. There's not a left followed by a right. Past software releases have handled that little area differently. So 10.2 turned on the blinker unnecessarily, but then proceeded through the S-curve just fine. 10.3 went through the S-curve, but it turned on the blinker unnecessarily and began going into the turn lane, or the middle lane, unnecessarily. So I took over and took the car through the S-curve. 10.3.1 turned on the blinker, then turned the blinker off, and then proceeded through the S-curve and slammed on the brakes when it realized it wasn't a left and a right. To the extent that it engaged emergency braking. So we have a person crossing the road there, two of them, and the car didn't stop for either. That's not great. I should have stopped for them, obviously, but yeah, that's too bad that the car didn't stop for those pedestrians that were clearly in the street. So what I'm hoping for is that 10.4 takes us through that S-curve smoothly without a unnecessary signal, without pulling us into the turn lane and without braking harshly. So we'll see. I am going to... She's doing a great job of kind of just moving to the left and the right in the lane to avoid obstacles. I'm going to pull over here, let cars go behind, or cars behind me go ahead, so that if it does slam on the brake, that doesn't put me in an accident. Okay. Just about ready to re-engage. And waiting for the ability. And we're re-engaged. Crossing over the yellow line here to avoid that pedestrian. That's a little extreme. And here we go. No cars behind us. This is the S-curve. Normally the blinker would turn on about here. And we've got the false blinker. It's turned back off. We've got the blinker back. It's slowed down in the middle of traffic to a standstill. I've got nobody coming behind me, so I'm going to let her figure out what she's doing. This is very awkward. Yep, I'm going to push on the gas. So she's just incapable of handling that corner correctly, unfortunately. So I'll send that feedback to Tesla. Also takes this corner a little too quickly. I do have my settings set to go about 5 miles over the speed limit, which generally is about right. I'm going to take her on one more test here. I'll disengage and we'll aim for, let's say, a destination down here. There's a series of kind of terraced streets, each kind of, you know, you go down, you hit the next street, you level off, you go down, you hit the next street, you level off. My experience there is that the car tends to, when we're leveled off, there's nothing visible. Re-engaging. Nothing visible, and so the car speeds up far too fast for that road. For this test, I'm going to take it down to the speed limit, which is 30 here, which is way too fast for this street. We're already flying, so I'm going to take it down to 25. This is just too fast for the street. I mean, there's a pedestrian there. I'm going to stop. The pedestrian's like, what in the hell are you doing flying through here? I'll take it to speed limit again. I do have a car behind me. Yeah, it's just too fast for conditions. And running off to the left like that on each of those is really uncomfortable, to the point where she was going over the yellow line. Okay, not great. We're going to call that a fail. I'm going to go through it one more time. Alright, we're going to turn this corner and try that same stretch of terraced streets again. I'm literally in the middle of the street here. It'd be impossible for another car to come through here. Also, this is a blind corner. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to take the speed this time down to, whoa, I don't know why she stopped like that. I'm going to take the speed down to 20. I want to pay more attention to the navigation here. The car was jumping to the left with each of these little hills. I want to see if that does that again. So, yeah, here we've gone over the yellow for no reason. And jerks to the left there, but didn't go over the yellow. This might be what you'd call a high curvature road, as they mentioned in the release notes. In any case, it's a bit strange that it pulls so far to the left when it goes over that curvature, I guess I should say. Okay. Well, now let's try a few roundabouts, shall we? Okay, we have the speed set to 25. We're down to 11 miles per hour approaching this roundabout. Oh, interesting. Okay, we've got a hard stop. Fascinating. The mirrors just turned in on their own. Ha! That's so cool. I've not seen that one before. Now we're going okay, good. We've slowed down to a reasonable speed. A little too slow. Around the roundabout. Tight hugging of both obstacles here. That car on my right, I probably came within about 6 or 8 inches of it on my right side. Okay, that's roundabout 1. I'm going to disengage and go up here to this roundabout number 2. Okay, we're moving forward. Rerouting hasn't happened yet. There, we've rerouted. And let's see how we do with the roundabout. I mean, this couldn't be more awkward. It's a very simple roundabout. So I'm not going to call that a... I mean, it passes. It was safe. Oh, and we're speeding. All right. I'm going to take the speed. I'm going to re-engage. I'm going to take the speed down to 25 and see what happens for roundabout number 3 here. Again, a near stop, which is unnecessary at a roundabout. Excellent maneuver around the roundabout, and a nice amount of space around the car to the right, so that felt like a success. Okay, I'm going to take over again, and we will reroute. I'm going to do a U-turn since I have nobody around. We're going to go through that roundabout again. Speed is set to 25. We're going down to 15, 14. Near stop. Reasonable distance from the roundabout and reasonable distance from that vehicle, although again, that's probably about 10 inches away from that vehicle, which, you know, from my perspective feels way too close. If I were navigating the roundabout, I would clear the vehicle obstacle with quite a bit more room for error. Next to no speed here. Fine on the distance on both obstacles, both the front and the back. All right, I might do 1 or 2 more. I'm going to disengage and find myself another roundabout. Looks like there is one up there. Okay, we've engaged. Immediately lunges to the left into the left lane. Speed set to 25. Fairly dramatic slowdown there to a near stop just to let that vehicle pass. It was narrow. I'm going to slow it down to 25 or 20. I think 25 is just too fast for these conditions, these tight kind of city streets. All right, here we go. That was reasonable speed and I think a good distance. Just going too fast. Yeah, I'm gonna disengage there. That was too close on the left. I'm sure that wasn't easy to tell from the camera's position, but the angle of the car was just gonna put my rear wheels so close to the roundabout that I decided to stop. Okay, new test. In previous iterations, what we've had is in terms of the notes mention lateral control when creeping for visibility, right? So this corner is a great example of an issue that I've found with the creeping behavior of the car. So what I have found previously on this corner is we get up there, we do not hug the right far enough to create space on the left of us for an incoming car. Then we creep out for visibility. There's some barriers there that are going to block visibility. We creep out for visibility. A human would go straight out to maintain space on the left and then a sharp left. The car instead, from the stop sign forward, basically does a diagonal straight line, which means, you know, at one point I'm essentially in the middle of the street sideways, blocking not only the lane accessing this road, but also just creating confusion for everybody. So we'll give this a try here. I'm going to take the speed down to the speed limit, 25. We'll see how we do. So immediately I think it would be great to be hugging the right a little bit farther. We're stopping behind the stop sign. We have no visibility, so we're creeping. And you see that it's begun the turn before it knows if it has visibility. This is a little bit better than past iterations, but right now is a great example. I've got a car coming in, trying to turn left into a space that I've basically blocked for them. She's able to get around me, but this is really not a very neighborly way to handle that corner. So now we're waiting for visibility. I see a car on the right coming. I see cars on the left. But hopefully that illustrates the problem. That car had to go really around me. And this car is confused too. Why am I clogging this lane? I should be going straight out and then doing a harder left to create that clearance. Alright, I have another car coming in my way. They're going to do this big loop around me. Sorry, dude. Okay, it looks like I have a clear spot. Will she go? Go, go, go. Okay, we're not going. If we don't go after these two cars, I'm going to take over, because I do have a car behind me now. And... oh my. Yep, I'm going to push the gas, and let's see if the control works. Okay, autopilot did the turn. Oh my goodness. Alright. I'm going to take over there. That was just a total failure. There were a couple of different spots where there was enough room to make that turn. And then having to push the gas. Ultimately, I shouldn't have pushed the gas. I should have just disengaged and taken over completely. All right, what's next? Okay, we're going to do one more test of a high curvature road. I'm not completely clear if high curvature road means curves to the right and left, or if they mean curvature of the road, meaning hills and valleys. But this is a bit of a hill, so the car is kind of pointed up into with the nose up into the air here, as we try to decide if we're going to be able to have the clearance to go right or left. So we'll see how we do. I've had a couple of issues with past iterations where the car is very confused when the right turn is made. This is a pretty good example. Here we are in the parking lane trying to drive, right? So I'm going to take over there and send that to Tesla. All right, I've taken over. By the way, I don't know if others have noticed this, but when you think that you've taken over, right? I grabbed the steering wheel, I put my foot on the gas, all this. What is not apparent, and maybe it's just to me, but cruise control remains on unless you actively turn it off or hit the brake. So oftentimes when I'm taking over, all I'm doing is grabbing the wheel, and I just assume at that point that I have control of the car. And on many occasions now, when I think I have control of the car, I've forgotten to disengage cruise control. So then suddenly I'm fighting the car I'm fighting the car with behaviors that I wasn't expecting, right? It wasn't, if I let my foot off the gas then, so I've taken the wheel, I've put my foot on the gas, I think I'm in control, and then I take my foot off the gas and the car is still going because I don't notice that taking control does not include disabling cruise control. It feels a bit dangerous. It makes complete sense on highway driving, but honestly, for city streets, if I grab the wheel, that should be enough, in my opinion, to let the car know to disengage fully. Okay, I think we're going to navigate to a parking lot and maybe give the auto parking a try. I'm curious if it makes it any easier to invoke the P, you know, the P that indicates that parking is available. We'll see. Nothing in the release notes about that being improved, so my hopes are not high. But my experience has been that it's a little difficult to get the system to identify a parking spot to use. So, also, we'll be going through an intersection up here in a moment where I have had a couple of weird behaviors happen. So we'll see if anything unique occurs up here. Fortunately, quite a lot of traffic, so this might have to speed this up. It's another pedestrian that was out in the street. I would have stopped for them and let them cross the street. The car did not. So in my mind, even right here, yep, there we're finally going to stop for them because the car realizes that they're walking toward us. But typically a pedestrian standing in the road on the edge is a good signal that you should probably stop and let them cross. At least that's how we do it here. Alright, we're going to take our sweet time getting into this turning lane. I'm glad that we're doing it way back here, even though it means crossing this yellow. That is a more natural thing to do. Had we waited until the opening in the line, very likely the lane would be filled and we'd end up missing this corner. So I feel like that's a success. We didn't quite make it, bummer. Here we go. Alright. Well, nothing to report really in that corner. That was fairly successful. This was what the release notes considered a cut-in when the traffic from another lane pulls in front of us. It mentioned something about deceleration boundaries or something like that. All I can say is that that was very smooth. I think in past releases the car may have slammed on the brakes when that happened, and in this case it took it in stride. I'm going to go ahead and take over because I want into this parking lot over here. Alright, here we are, parking lot. I'll go over here to this more open area. Okay, where would I begin to expect to see the P? I could back into that parking spot just fine myself right now. There it is. Hey, you know, that could be an improvement. We'll give that a couple more tries to see if it's replicatable. I'd be amazed if it did it in one shot. It almost never does. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Not going to do it in one stop. Too much to hope for a natural parking maneuver. Still, I think this is going to be considered a success. We're going to center a bit in the spot. It's perfect. And I would stop about there. And we have. Awesome. Hey, that's great. Now let's go try to do it again. Let me see. Let's say I wanted to park somewhere between these two cars on the right here. So right now I could park in one of them. Ah, that's perfect. Excellent. It did it again. It's going to be a two maneuver activity, I think. Well, that's two back-to-back tests where the P appeared about the time that I thought to myself, I could park now. So that's kind of nice to see. Quite a successful parking job there. I'm going to go ahead and... Oops, there we go. Okay, we're going to take it around the corner and try a spot where there's more open spaces. That might be part of the challenge, is that maybe it's finding the spots when there's another car parked near it. So we'll see if we have the same success in an area where there's a bunch of empty spaces. Can I find an area like that? That might be a challenge. It's a busy day here right before Thanksgiving at the grocery store. This... Maybe I'll go around here. Okay, actually right here might be good. So we're going to take a hard left, and all these spots here, we're going to hope that the P shows up for one of them. Hey, I've already got a P. That's impressive. Well, I don't know what to conclude it. I don't know if others are going to experience the same thing, but I really do feel like we can conclude that even though it wasn't mentioned in the release notes, unless if you, I think there was something in there about road lines potentially in the object modeling, but I feel like we can conclude some improvement there in what I guess what you might call the invocation of the parking function. So we'll try it one more time here. I'm gonna go past these spots, and then I'm gonna slow down right about here where I would be able to pull into that spot. Are we gonna get the P? So maybe this is the challenge. Maybe the challenge is when there aren't other cars around. See, I should be able to park in those spots. Interesting, I put it in reverse and it becomes available. I'm going to do this all over again. We're going to back all the way up. Look at it was suggesting different spots as I did that. Okay, here we are at the beginning again, putting it into drive, looking for parking spots. So I'd like a parking spot right around here, please. No dice. What if I put my brake on? Nothing. If I put it in reverse? Nothing. What if I reverse until... Look at that. It discovers a parking spot as I reverse. Huh. Well, the parking functionality is elusive to some extent. It is a mystery. Not bad once you're able to get it to work. It would be wonderful if it could park in one motion instead of a minimum of two. I've never seen it park with one shot yet. Still, I have to conclude that there's an improvement there. I drove all over the parking lot on 10.3.1. That was a little close to the curb. I drove all over this parking lot on 10.3.1 trying to get that little P to show up, and it was a real challenge. I got it a couple times, but I felt like I was wandering around looking for it. There it is again. There it is again. So when there are other cars present, it seems to work just fine. There it is again. Fascinating. Well, that was a fun little experiment. I think we'll stop there for today. Yeah. Perhaps we call that good for today. Thanks for hanging out and watching us. I'd love to see your observations if you see something that I didn't catch while we were doing it. Difficult to conclude if this is a significant improvement or not. I'm going to drive it a little bit more, but a couple of minor improvements, and certainly nothing worse that I can tell. All right, thanks a lot. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.